You can email us freedom@charliekirk.com, and we love hearing from you. And actually, I want to provoke your response today because I'm infinitely curious, actually, of how you think and how you feel about the topic at hand. The breaking news, of course, is the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, is out. He is gone. Now, the National Security Advisor is a non-Senate confirmed position. The National Security Advisor exists as the top national security point of contact between the president and what is called the NSC, the National Security Council. The National Security Council partially is housed actually in the White House, but mostly is actually in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, which is technically on White House grounds. It's that ugly, monolithic, big building right next to the White House. Michael Waltz, being the National Security Advisor, he did last longer than Michael Flynn, but of course Michael Flynn was taken out by our own government. Now, there's always been, let's just say, upheaval when it comes to the national security position when it comes to President Trump. Famously, he had H.R. McMaster or John Bolton. President Trump likes to put people in that role that are sometimes more hawkish, more aggressive than he is, as a way of kind of a negotiating tactic, is that when you walk into a room with John Bolton with Iran, they think, my goodness, that guy's a lunatic, he might bomb us. Then President Trump can kind of use that as let's just say, a leveraging tactic, as a negotiating tool. Now, understand, the National Security Advisor is one of the first faces the president sees every single morning when it comes from a work context. Every morning, the president receives his daily briefing. The person who administers that daily briefing is the National Security Advisor. So all night into the early hours of the morning, the National Security Council is compiling, let's just say, 5 to 6 bullet points what the president needs to know. Here's what's happening in Iran. Here's what's happening with Russia. Here's the threats from China. Here's what's happening cyber. The National Security Advisor puts all of that together, goes straight up to the president after he consolidates what is the hub in the National Security Council and presents it to the president. Mr. President, here's what's going on. Here is your daily confidential, classified, I should say, presidential briefing. That person needs to get along very well with the president. That person needs to have a good vibe and a good energy with the president because they spend a lot of time together. Now, Mike Waltz, of course, famously added Jeffrey Goldberg to the Signal chat. The Signal chat, of course, is one thing that was probably one of the more annoying developments of this administration so far. Mike Waltz added the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, and we never got a really good answer of how that happened. One of the excuses was, well, he saved his contacts with Jeffrey Goldberg, and then he wasn't sure who he was adding and why he was there and what was going on. And it's just, we're not exactly completely clear or, let's just say, certain why that happened. Now, Mike Waltz, after the attacks that happened in Yemen, the Houthi attacks, he famously sent the knuckle and emoji with the American flag and the fire symbol. Now, Mike Waltz and I had a fine relationship. He knew that we had significant disagreements, and that's what I really want to emphasize and mention here, is that Mike Waltz and his deputy, Alex Wong, represented a neoconservative view of foreign policy. Now, what is a neoconservative view of foreign policy? Well, neoconservatism is actually a outgrowth of Marxism from the 1940s and 50s, which it is a Trotskyite, Stalinist way of viewing the world, which is that we are going to expand the state to such great lengths, and we're going to bring American values by force to the rest of the world. The architects of the Iraq War, the architects of the Vietnam War, and mind you, yesterday was the 50-year anniversary of the fall of Saigon. Neoconservatives brought us into Vietnam, and so it is actually very fitting that a neoconservative falls the day after Saigon fell 50 years ago. Something to think about. And so there's a major internal battle happening, and it is manifested with this Mike Waltz, Alex Wong situation. Overall, this is a positive development for President Trump's administration. Mike Waltz knows that I don't see eye to eye with him on many things. I've said that to him in his face. It's nothing personal. I just don't think we should go to war with Iran. And that is actually what I want your emails today. I'm going to read them all. I might not respond to them all, but I'm going to read them all. You are representative of the conservative base. You are in the front lines of the MAGA movement. Do you support military strikes against Iran if they are developing a nuclear bomb? It's a very important question because, look, war with Iran, of course, is what Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham want. They've wanted that forever. But what is instead being proposed is, well, what if we just do limited airstrikes? And you got to also just take the step back. Wait a second. Why are we trusting our intel agencies so quickly? We've only been in charge for 101 or 102 days. We're all of a sudden going to trust the Biden holdover intel agencies that are telling us Iran is close to a nuclear weapon after they have lied to us at every single corner and every turn? The battle is over Iran, and there are people in Washington inside the Pentagon and inside the administration who want to launch military strikes on Iran. Often they say it'd be easy, just one strike, in and out. Now, pause. How often have they actually been correct about the one in and out thing? Has that ever actually been the case? Oh yeah, we're just going to do some strikes in Libya. Oh really? Libya has been a catastrophe. Libya has been a disaster ever since we removed Gaddafi. By the way, Gaddafi is a really interesting example as to why Iran wants nuclear weapons. Remember, Gaddafi voluntarily denuclearized. Remember that? Gaddafi voluntarily denuclearized, and then he got sodomized in the streets of Libya. And we still have troops in Libya. And here's the honest truth. America cannot and absolutely does not and cannot afford a war with Iran. Military strikes against Iran would be war against Iran, period. And I want someone to make the argument why that is a good idea. I've heard all the arguments, and Mike Waltz represented a coalition of people in Washington, D.C. that were largely sympathetic to that. Oh, it's just a couple military strikes. Again, when have any of these people ever proven that it's just a couple military strikes? It's always a further quagmire that gets us involved in these unnecessarily conflicts. And then finally, let's just take a step back. Iran, of course, the Ayatollahs of Iran are terrible. Nobody likes them. You must remember they're only in power because of America, because of us. We put them in power. We displaced the Shah. We displaced the democratically elected leader Mossadegh and put in the Shah, which then, of course, led to the Ayatollahs of Iran. And then finally, is a nuclear weapon against Iran a threat to America? Probably could be. It's a threat to Israel, but is it a threat to America? I mean, India has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So is it worth a potential another war with Iran? And the people that are, let's just say, advocates for preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon by all means necessary, they're the same architects that were perfectly fine with the Iraq War, the same designers of the Iraq War. The primary way Iran can hurt this country is by sucking us into another Middle East quagmire, and they know it. And Iran would have the potential to be the worst Middle East quagmire of all time. Iran has 90 million people. That's more than 3 times as big as Iraq was when we invaded 22 years ago. It's larger than both Afghanistan and Iraq combined, both in population and in area. Iraq was at least mostly a flat country. It's a bunch of cities along a couple rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Iran isn't like that. It's almost all mountains. Iran has spent decades preparing specifically for war with the United States. Their military has lots of weapons designed for fighting a much stronger adversary. They have a lot of drones, a lot of speedboats, a lot of cheap, expendable weapons. They're far more formidable than Iraq or the Taliban were. And I seriously want your thoughts. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. Would you say it's a good idea to use military force to strike potential Iranian nuclear targets? My whole life, I've been told that Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a nuclear bomb. And yet here in 2025, they do not have a nuclear bomb. So why should we trust the American intelligence without verifying it? Now, the other side of the argument is, Iran is this big threat. The same people that told us that Iraq was a big threat, the same people that told us the Taliban was a big threat. I'll be honest, fine. I mean, I don't like Iran, but the evidence shows that every single one of these people, the last couple of decades, that is pushing for a conflict with Iran has not just failed miserably, has been one of the greatest catastrophes in American foreign policy ever. Thousands of lives needlessly lost of Americans, millions of people displaced, trillions of dollars spent. And let's be honest, at this particular moment, we cannot afford this war. We are economically vulnerable. There is massive de-dollarization happening. We're trying a difficult manufacturing pivot with tariffs. We've seen the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. We blew our military reserves in Ukraine. And now is the time that all of a sudden we want to try to get involved in another endless conflict. Let me be clear. It will not end with just military strikes. If you strike Iran on the interior, you will have a war. That is an act of war. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Make your case. If you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof that you own your house. If you're like me, the answer is never. The problem is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and boom, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they take out loans using your equity or even sell your property. You won't even know it's happened until you get a collection or a foreclosure notice. That's why you need to stop what you're doing and find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code Kirk at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com now. Use promo code Kirk. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Kirk. And look, I'm not saying that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, it's a good thing. I mean, they're a bunch of maniacs. Of course, they could deploy it to a drone and they could detonate it over America. For the record, though, Pakistan could do the same thing. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. And Pakistan harbored bin Laden. Russia could do the same thing. We're firing weapons into the interior of Russia. And so if we were to strike Iran, or if we were to support Israel to support Iran, it is very tempting to view this like it's just a game of risk. Ooh, I struck them. We won. No, that's an escalation. Is them getting a nuclear weapon good? No, we're not making that argument. No one here is making that argument. Of course not. But lots of things are bad that we shouldn't risk destroying America to stop. Let me say that again. There's lots of bad things that we should not risk destroying America to stop. And for me, this is a hard and fast red line. We did not run on war with Iran. We did not run on striking Iran. And I know the president agrees. I know the president agrees with this, which is why he's trying to actually talk to Iran. The situation we're looking at right now is invading Iran losing the global dollar. How about this? I will be more open. Here's my open challenge. I will be more open to someone striking Iran if you could tell me how their government works. Can anyone tell me how their government works? Do you know that no one actually knows how their government works? We have like a vague idea. Even Blake, the smartest person I know, he's like, yeah, we kind of have an idea, but it's really kind of strange. And you go around to D.C., the people that want to strike Iran, and we're told that they're going to, they're nothing but an irrational actor. Of course they're evil. We did a whole show against Islam yesterday. Got it. But if you listen to the president's words on Iran, it's very telling. I want Iran to have a great future, and they have an opportunity to have a great and prosperous future. And let me just reiterate this. Reject the premise. You have to prove it to us. The neoconservatives have not earned our trust. Now, interestingly, if we were to strike Iran, it would actually strengthen Islamic fundamentalism around the world. You would think that, striking Iran actually puts a step back against it. No. The West striking the interior and the home of Shia Islam would actually only further terrorist attacks against us in the West. It would only strengthen their resolve. And the other thing is this, is that Iran is actually getting weaker with time, actually. We have sanctions on them. I'm not even talking about removing sanctions. The government is unpopular. We, on the Charlie Kirk Show, we get thousands of messages of young kids on the dark web or whatever they call it that then message us on TikTok saying, I'm not allowed to do this, but I love your videos and we're from Persia and we love you guys. The Iranian people are becoming less Islamist. If we struck Iran, they would rally around Islam. It would give them a rallying cry. Think about it. When a country is attacked, you get blinded by everything, and then the most radical ideology is ascendant. We can and can continue weaken the government. We're bankrupting them like Trump did the first time. No one's debating any of that. And I want to just say this. I have a heart for the Persian people. The Persian people are some of the most industrious. They're some of the hardest working. They're some of the highest IQ. But if you strike Iran, and this is my number one reason why I'm not a neoconservative, is that it's so prideful. As if you can map out every single action and have every other predictive element. Oh, if we strike and then this will happen and this won't happen. No, it turns out that you can't predict the future. And when you drop a bunch of bombs on a country and probably murder a bunch of kids and a bunch of women, because you know what, the Iranian government, they probably have a bunch of schools right next to nuclear sites, so keep that in mind, because they're not dumb. They probably built, just the way Hamas does, human shields right around these nuclear sites, and you're going to go kill a bunch of their top scientists and a bunch of their infrastructure. How do you think they're going to respond? They'll respond with an actual declaration of war. They'll close the Strait of Hormuz. They'll start kidnapping Americans, and they did that, of course, in the Munich Olympics. It's not as simple as we're just going to strike them. I'm not saying the situation is simple. This is a very, very high wire act, incredibly so. And one of the reasons why Mike Waltz being gone is an interesting development is it's one less neoconservative that are pushing this. Now, of course, no one wants Iran to get nuclear weapons. But again, I love Israel, but let's be honest. This is more of Israel pushing for Iran not to get Israel weapons, not America. And that's fine. I mean, Israel should do that. Israel should advocate for its own self-defense. And I love Israel, and I advocate for Israel. Israel has done a poor job, by the way, in the PR war of actually telling us why this is bad for America. So maybe they need to do a better job of that. But is that America's problem? That's a question. I mean, maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is, you know what? They were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about Afghanistan. They were wrong about the Taliban. They were wrong about Libya. They were wrong about the Arab Spring. They were wrong about Yemen. They were wrong about the Arabian Peninsula. They were wrong about the 9/11 hijackers being Saudi Arabian. But hey, 10th time's a charm. This time we're actually right. Yeah, you're going to have to earn our trust on this one.